A MAGA Republican congressman who's been dodging town halls because he does not want to address how he has harmed and destroyed the lives of his constituents was caught at a GOP event on a hot mic talking about the Epstein files and saying that Donald Trump's name is all over the Epstein files. The Congress member's name is Mike Collins. He represents Georgia's 10th congressional district. And he thought he was in a crowd of friends and didn't think anybody was recording what he was saying. So when a participant who was at this GOP-only event asked him about the Epstein files, he said, look, I think that Donald Trump's name is all over these files. He was caught on the hot mic. But what he says, and I want you to listen very carefully, is he goes, because Donald Trump was the one who called the FBI against Epstein in order to get Epstein arrested, that Donald Trump was the hero of this fantasy world that's being created by MAGA Republican Congress member Mike Collins. First, let me play for you what was captured on this hot mic within the past few days. But then I want to tell you, it's interesting, when Mike Collins talks about Donald Trump calling up the FBI, what's fascinating about that is that when I spoke to Michael Wolff, Donald Trump's former biographer, Wolff was potentially going to be the biographer for Jeffrey Epstein, met with Epstein multiple days, has hours and hours of recorded interview with Epstein. One of the things that Epstein speculated was because he and Donald Trump were involved in so many things together that after the two were getting litigious against each other over a real estate transaction, because they both had dirt on each other, Donald Trump may have struck first and then told on Epstein as an anonymous source, as basically an informant, if you will. Epstein was never sure. Maybe Trump told because they were doing stuff together, or Trump was there when Epstein was doing things. Epstein said to Wolff that may have taken place. And when Epstein shared that story with Wolff, that became part of Wolff's second book on Trump called Siege, Epstein returned from a trip to the United States and then was arrested again by Trump's DOJ at that point in time after entering that non-prosecution agreement. So let's tie this all together. First, let me play for you the hot mic moment where Mike Collins, again, who's avoided town halls, here's what he said at the GOP event. Let's play this clip.
I didn't get to ask my question, which was, party unity, the Epstein files. I mean, do you think Trump's in there?
Yeah, I'm sure he's in there because he's the one that was telling the FBI about it. He's the one that kicked the guy out of Mar-a-Lago and then called the FBI. Yeah, he's in there.
So, what's going to happen? Are you going to vote to release him, or vote to keep him?
Oh, we need to release him.
What about you?
Yeah, man. I have no problem releasing him, but you've got to go through the judicial. We all know that. If the problem is, it'd be our luck that somebody's going to bleep somebody that is supposed to be protected, and then what?
Yeah, well,
so they've got to go through and
victims' names and all that stuff.
They've got to go through and fix all of it. Yeah. And then, of course, now you got judges that are saying, I'm not going to release anything, grand jury, blah blah blah. This lady's over here filing an appeal or whatever, and it's. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a judge, but it is more complicated than just saying, boom, here's the files, take them.
Now here, Democratic Congresswoman Stansberry says, look, even Collins is saying that Donald Trump's name is all over the files. Here, play this clip.
We know from reporting that Pam Bondi told Trump he's in the files. So these guys are totally manufacturing a smokescreen to shield the president. And in fact, there was a hot mic moment released today by Mike Collins, who's a representative from Georgia, in which he said, of course, Trump's in the files. He's all over them. So these guys know what's going on.
All right. Now, let's pull it back for a second. So let's just say Donald Trump's name was in the Epstein files as the hero, as the protagonist who saved the day. Okay. Well, if that's the case, Donald Trump, who has his face plastered on buildings in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump, who creates the most phony stories about himself in this hero fantasy that he has where he saves everyone with his savior complex, don't you think he'd probably want those files released right away? Wouldn't that be something that he wants out there? See, that's why I think that his name, which we know is in the files, repeatedly, Trump was briefed by his own Department of Justice in the Oval. Attorney General Pam Bondi told him in May, your name's all over this thing. And they came up with the plan. We've got to deep six this. We've got to hide it. Redact all references to my name. We're not releasing these things at all. Does that sound like somebody who is innocent or who is the hero? I'm going to play for you what Michael Wolff told me in just a moment about the falling out between Epstein and Trump. But let me do what I would have normally done as a lawyer if I were to present what's called a summary judgment motion, where all you can do is give undisputed facts. I'm not trying to be argumentative. Let me just give you the undisputed facts, and you can judge for yourself. Then let me play for you what Michael Wolff says. Okay, undisputed fact from the late 80s through about 2004, 2005, Donald Trump and Epstein were very close friends, potentially even best friends. That's undisputed fact one. Undisputed fact number two. In 2002, Donald Trump told New York Magazine, Epstein is a great guy. He likes beautiful women. Many are on the younger side, right? Undisputed fact number three, when Donald Trump wrote a book, it was ghostwritten back in 1997, he gave a copy to Jeffrey Epstein and says, Jeffrey Epstein, you are the greatest. Undisputed fact number four, Donald Trump has been found liable for sexual assault by a federal jury. Undisputed fact number five, Donald Trump is on audio saying that if you're rich like him, you can grab women by their genitals, and they let you do it if you're rich and famous. Undisputed fact number six, when confronted with that, Trump said that's the way men have been for millions of years, fortunately or unfortunately. Undisputed fact number seven, in that case where Donald Trump was found liable for sexual assault, Donald Trump said that there were certain women who he wouldn't have sexually assaulted simply because they were not his type, and then told the lawyer that she was not his type. Undisputed fact number eight, Donald Trump spoke in front of a group of young Republicans, high school students and college students in New York back in 2024, and said locker room talk. That was the most courageous thing that he's ever said, calling sexually assaulted women locker room talk. Another undisputed fact, Donald Trump said that at his beauty pageants, where there would be girls from ages 14 to 28 at these beauty pageants, he said he would go in and he would inspect the people naked, and because he was the host of the beauty pageant, you get away with it. You just get to inspect them and say, I'm the inspector. He's like a doctor, is what he said, words to those effect. Another undisputed fact, when Donald Trump was on Howard Stern, he said that Lindsay Lohan, who may have been 18 at the time, she may have been 17 or just turned 18, he said he would love to sleep with her because she's mentally ill. The mentally ill ones, he goes, the mentally ill ones, they're the best ones in bed, he says. Or words to those effect, which is disgusting. Another undisputed fact, in 1997 or so, the Sunday Mirror, which was owned by Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell, talked about how Ghislaine would bring young women to Donald Trump, many different young women Ghislaine would bring to Donald Trump, and he would keep them in his penthouse. That was in 1997. We know that another undisputed fact, some underage girls were trafficked from Mar-a-Lago, like Virginia Giuffre, 17 years old. She was homeless. She got a job at Mar-a-Lago at the spa. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein went to the spa, recruited this child to become a masseuse for Epstein, and then Epstein started sex trafficking her to rich and powerful men. That's another undisputed fact. Donald Trump, undisputed, said that Epstein stole girls from Mar-a-Lago, stole them from Mar-a-Lago, like Virginia Giuffre. He remembered the name Virginia Giuffre, that's stolen from Mar-a-Lago, so that's an undisputed fact. And girls, plural, we know that Epstein and Ghislaine brought over a 14-year-old girl to Mar-a-Lago and said, do you like this one, or words to that effect. Jane Doe, 14 years old, who testified at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial about this introduction to Trump. We don't know more than that. That's what happened. We know that Trump and Epstein would have at least one event, maybe multiple, at Mar-a-Lago, where girls of indeterminate age, many girls of indeterminate age were told that they would meet VIP model agencies. By the way, Trump owned a modeling agency, Epstein owned a modeling agency, and they hung out with the crew of people who owned modeling agencies where there was lots of accusations of sexual assault of underage people at different modeling agencies, like Epstein's modeling agency, this other French guy's modeling agency, this whole crew, including Donald Trump through this event, the Look of the Year competition, with this modeling agency, and this modeling agency would use these, was known for sexually abusing girls. So that's another undisputed. So these are all undisputed facts, and they threw this event at Mar-a-Lago. We don't know the age of these girls at Mar-a-Lago at all, but they were of all different ages at Mar-a-Lago. And what happened there, we don't know. Were they playing hopscotch? What the heck was going on? Unclear. So those are, I think, undisputed facts right there.
Did you know that the liver is the second largest organ in your body? It's responsible for over 500 functions in your body, but for some reason, liver health doesn't always get the attention that it deserves. Dose for Your Liver was formulated to cleanse your liver of unwanted elements, aid digestion, and maintain your body's filter. Why does this matter? Well, your liver is the second largest organ in your body and is responsible for over 500 functions in your body. It acts as your body's filter, flushing out unwanted elements and breaking down what you consume into essential nutrients. The liver produces and regulates cholesterol, stores vitamins and minerals, and impacts digestive and metabolic health, amongst many other things. Dose's science-backed formula promotes liver function, aids digestion, eases bloating, and even boosts energy levels. Clinical results. In a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial, Dose for Your Liver lowered liver enzyme levels by 50% in over 86% of participants. Stick with Dose and feel the incredible benefits over time with more energy, better digestion, reduced bloating, healthier liver enzyme function, reduction of brain fog, and better sleep. One Dose for Your Liver shot is equivalent to 17 shots of turmeric juice. Dose is gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, and vegan. Save 30% on your first month of subscription by going to dosedaily.co/Meidas or entering Meidas at checkout. That's dosedaily.co/Meidas for 30% off your first month subscription.
Now, here's what Michael Wolff says about how the relationship between Trump and Epstein ended. Here, play this clip.
Now, Epstein's explanation for why this friendship ended is as follows. In 2004, Epstein believed himself to be the high bidder on a piece of real estate in Palm Beach, a house. $36 million was his bid. He took his friend Trump around to see the house to advise him on how to move the swimming pool. Trump thereupon went around Epstein's back and bid $40 million for the house and got the property. Epstein, who was well acquainted, in fact, deeply involved with Trump's scattered finances, understood that he didn't have $40 million to pay for this house. Now, if that was the case, it was someone else's $40 million. At the time, Epstein believed this to be the $40 million of a Russian oligarch by the name of Rybolev. Less than 2 years later, this same house that Trump had bought for $40 million was sold for $95 million. And it was, in fact, sold to Mr. Rybolev. This is all a red flag of money laundering. And what Epstein did, and he was furious about losing this house. I mean, there's something about these guys that nothing rouses them so much as a real estate betrayal. Epstein, after the sale of this house, after Trump went around his back, got this house, Epstein began to threaten him. He began to threaten him with lawsuits. he began to threaten him with going to the press and saying that Trump was a front man for a money laundering deal. Trump panics at this point, and Epstein believed, and he believed to his dying day, that it was Trump who went to the police, Trump who was fully acquainted with what was going on at Epstein's house, fully acquainted for many years. Trump went to the police and, as Epstein said, dropped the dime on him. That is to say, informed the police of what was going on, and an investigation began, and all of Epstein's legal problems for the next 15 years began to unfold. This story about this piece of real estate and their falling out was first published in June 2019. It was published actually in my book, Siege, the second book I had written about the Trump White House. Epstein had recounted this story to me. I put it in this book. Epstein at that moment was in Paris. He read the book. He called me with some alarm, and he said he was afraid that he might have said too much. 3 weeks later, he returned to the United States from Paris and was promptly arrested on the tarmac of Teterboro Airport in New Jersey when his plane landed.
So one of the questions is, not in a way that Trump is like the good guy, but one of the things Epstein speculated was, could there have been a situation where Donald Trump, because of that litigation involving the Russian oligarch's acquisition of this home that Epstein told Trump about, then Trump swooped in and sold it for twice the amount, and there was litigation, did Trump then talk to the police about Epstein in order for Trump to avoid the litigation with Epstein, and for Trump to get the property, keep the property, and avoid the litigation? You know, you could put that together. So I don't know. I'm just giving you undisputed facts, circumstantial evidence, and you can judge for yourself. But one of the things that Mike Collins is now doing is posting things like this: "Go woke, go broke," with Donald Trump's image and likeness next to the Cracker Barrel logo. Mike Collins is posting, "It's beyond comprehension that there are 55 million people in this country with visas. The Trump administration says it's reviewing all 55 million people with USA visas. There's not 55 million people with visas in the United States of America right now." Talking about potentially all people in the history of time having visas anywhere throughout the world, not living in the United States. But this is the type of things that Mike Collins is doing while not throwing town halls, and then posting images like this: "Smells like victory," in response to Fox saying Cracker Barrel's changing its logo back. So the bottom line is that we all just want the answers. We all want to know what the hell is going on. When Ghislaine Maxwell, at her meeting with Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney, who now leads the Department of Justice, when Ghislaine Maxwell says that, Epstein was like a gentleman, and lots of people just wanted to hang with him just for the fun of it. These weren't creepy people at all. People in your cabinet, people who have jobs with you, is what she says to Todd Blanche, like people in Trump's cabinet. Here, play this clip.
But did I think these guys were coming for that? I really don't. If you met Epstein, there is no way that this cast of characters, of which it's extraordinary, some of you in your cabinet, who you value as your co-workers and would be with him if he was a creep, or because they wanted sexual favors. A man wants sexual favors, he will find that. They didn't have to come to Epstein for that.
And whenever I'm doing these reports on the Epstein files now, I think it's also important to know that Donald Trump is gutting victim services for victims of sexual assault, and child victims of sexual assault, child victims of sex trafficking. New York Attorney General Platkin was on Legal AF and talked about how Donald Trump is getting rid of like victims protection services at the DOJ and funding local victims protection services at state and city levels. Here, play this clip.
First of all, thanks for having us. It's great to be here. And I have to just give Rob and the other 20 AGs on this case, and frankly, all 23 of us in the coalition, a huge shout out. This is just a team effort on all of these cases. But this case really, frankly, shocks me that we had to file. You noted 40 plus years ago, the noted liberal Ronald Reagan signed into law the Victims of Crime Act because we as a nation were not supporting people who had gone through these unimaginable horrors. We're talking about sexual assault victims, victims of domestic violence, gun violence victims, child sex abuse victims. These are the types of people and their families and loved ones who benefit from this program. It supports them in moments of need. I can't think of something that is less political than that. And yet here we are for the first time ever having an administration say, unless you bend the knee and do something that courts and Congress have said you don't have to do with respect to mass immigration enforcement, we're not going to fund your victim services. We're going to tell these incredibly vulnerable people that they're out of luck. I think it's unconscionable. And I think this case, among all of the cases we've done, is frankly the most shocking that we've had to file.
So again, let's just get the answers. Let's get the info. Let's get the files. Trump's not, okay, Trump's not the hero in the story, okay? Donald Trump was with Epstein during these horrific moments, and we all deserve to see the files. Absolutely. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. Thank you for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.